Hello everyone, this is Pal Ponder on Weather. In this video, we're going to be talking about a very strong cold front that's going to bring heavy snow, record cold, and flooding rains into Florida. So if you're new to the channel, click the subscribe button and the notification bell to get all my daily updates to keep you ahead of the storm. So let's get right to it. Here's your overall surface map this morning with your watches and warnings as of April the 18th here. And look at this. We've got winter weather advisories already posted for Montana, getting into Wyoming, as well as South Dakota, creeping into Nebraska. But what really stands out here is the blue. We've got, those are freeze watches for much of Kansas, getting into the Texas Panhandle, pretty much the entire state of Oklahoma, and into northern parts of Texas here are already expecting some freezing temperatures, and that's a sign of things to come, definitely with this cold front that's going to be on the way. But how all this is going to play out, we have to look at the teleconnections, and all this is lining up. And when you see a combination like this with the PNA going positive, which is your Pacific North American, when it actually goes positive, that basically signifies that the ridge is building out west. That's going to bring some very warm temperatures, if not record high temperatures out there. But with the EPO off the charts, EPO, Eastern Pacific Oscillation, that's more than a -5 deviation. That definitely signifies with that two combination, that's going to pour that cold air into the central U.S. and then eventually shift off to the east. As we look at the record lows, even this morning, with that first initial cold front that moved through, that went all the way down into deep south of Texas, all the way into Brownsville, where they had near record lows this morning. So even that first cold shot is definitely cold for this time of year. If you look at the overall temperatures as of this morning, look at the Caribbean, we've got widespread 75, 80 degrees. But right here along Florida, that's your cold front that's stalled over Florida, that's already brought flooding rains, and that will continue to bring flooding rains. There's your colder temperatures. Yeah, 57 in Brownsville is near record cold temperatures for them. 45 out here in West Texas, 43 in Dallas, 55 in Los Angeles, 45 in New York. But up here to the north, that's our strong cold front that's going to be on the way, pulling down those well below freezing temperatures. Will start entering into the central U.S. and dive all the way down into Texas. Now let's take a look at the overall anomalies for later on today. There's that first initial cold blast, that 20 to 25 degrees below average temperatures, dipping all the way down into deep south of Texas into Mexico. Up here to the north, that's our cold front that's going to be a major player for at least for the first half of the week. And there's your squeeze play. You got well above average temperatures in Alaska here, into Washington, into Oregon, into California. I mean, we're talking 88 degrees in Los Angeles today. And even down to the south here in Florida, they're going to be looking at low 90s. So, but in the middle, that is your colder air, and it's going to be chilly for this time of year. Let's look at the surface map, and that up above where that cold air is going to lie, that's going to start bringing some snow along with it, with that 1032 Arctic high pressure, 1039 Arctic high pressure. That snow line will dip in from Canada, start entering the U.S. by later on today, as that stalled frontal boundary just sits over Florida and just keeps dumping that heavier rains. Now let's take a look at the overall anomalies for tomorrow, Monday the 19th. That colder air continues to be locked in place into Texas with those well below average temperatures. We're up to the north. We've got a second reinforcing shot, and even a colder shot that's going to be entering, northern portions of the Dakotas. And look at this. I mean, these are 20, 25, upwards to 30 degrees below average temperatures. Those are some cold temperatures underneath that. In fact, here's the cold temperatures by the time we get into Monday morning, and all that red here up to the north, that is your into the 20s temperatures, and even several record low temperatures as the colder air will continue to shift into the 30s, into Kansas, getting into Oklahoma. This is Monday morning now. Widespread 30s into Missouri, into Arkansas, much of the southeast, mid 40s, as that colder air will continue to press south as we're getting the 30s and 40s up here into the northeast. But as we go into the day on Monday, that snow line will dip a little bit further south. Now it's going to be entering portions of Montana. Going into Wyoming here, that'll be creeping into Nebraska. Now going into Iowa with some of that snow that's going to be filtering in further down to the south. There's that boundary in Florida. It's like a broken record that just sits there pretty much the first half of the week with that heavier rains, and those rains will extend off the coast here into the northeast. But now let's look at Tuesday. This is where it starts getting really cold here, as those 20, 25, almost 30 degree below average temperatures inundates Kansas, over Oklahoma. That's why they already have those freeze watches in place. Going into the Texas Panhandle, this will continue to shift further south as we go through the day on Tuesday, with some very cold air into the central U.S. And by Tuesday morning, that's your cold front. Yeah, I mean, look, now there's 8 record low temperatures and more widespread 20s. And now we're all talking almost the entire state of Kansas below freezing. And those below freezing temperatures will start entering Missouri. We'll start entering the Oklahoma Panhandle, the Texas Panhandle, widespread, 40s and 50s in Texas and much of the southeast, as that colder air will continue to shift further south, and it will really max out on Wednesday. But yeah, there's your overall surface map for Tuesday morning, as that colder air will continue to shift further south. I already showed you the temperature. So underneath that, with all freezing temperatures in Kansas, you're going to be picking up some snow. If not, the darker blues or your heavier snows is a good swath of 4 to 6 inches and is going to dump over Kansas, getting into northern Missouri, getting into Iowa here, as again, that stalled frontal boundary into Florida keeps dumping that heavier rains. But as we go into the deeper in the day on Tuesday, that snow line will just continue to amplify and lift off into the northeast. We'll dump in those heavier snows, lifting a little bit further south now, getting into Missouri. Now we're talking places into central Missouri, getting into Illinois, getting into portions of Indiana. That will extend into Canada here. Well, again, those flooding rains will continue into Florida. As we go into the overnight on Tuesday, getting into Wednesday morning, that snow line will creep a little bit further south now, getting more of Indiana into play, more of Illinois, Indiana, getting into portions of Ohio now with some of those heavier snows, getting into Detroit, Michigan, and places will be picking up. I'm expecting almost 6 inches of snow in Detroit, Michigan, coming up with this system. And as this will continue lifting off across to the northeast. But yeah, by Wednesday morning, look at that. I mean, that's widespread 20 degree below average temperatures. That is a good chunk of real estate for the third week in April by then. And a lot of these are going to be record lows, because these colder temperatures penetrate all the way down into Texas, getting into Louisiana. In fact, let's look at some of these record lows. In fact, there's 41 that are going to be expected by the time we get into Wednesday morning. All the reds here to the north, that is anywhere from 20 degree temperatures, even lower into the teens. But yeah, the entire state of Kansas below freezing, almost the entire state of Oklahoma below freezing. So a lot of you guys are going to be having to cover the plants, because I imagine a lot of these plants are planted by now, because it's April 21st. Pretty much the entire state of northern Arkansas below freezing. Look at all the record lows in Texas. I mean, record low in the Dallas-Fort Worth area will break a 1918 record low temperatures. That is some cold stuff. you're going to be having to cover the plants. And these are showing, like I said, the airport temperatures. If you live out in the suburbs, it's going to be colder than that. So definitely be covering your plants into Texas. I mean, look at this, 40 degrees in Shreveport for a low temperature on April 21st. That is nuts, guys. That is some cold stuff, and that means business, and that will do some damage to your plants, so definitely get prepared. And those colder temperatures will slowly shift into portions of the southeast, getting into the Tennessee Valley, getting into Kentucky here. But yeah, much of Ohio, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio here, below freezing temperatures coming up for Wednesday morning. So that is definitely some very cold stuff. But going into Wednesday, yeah, with that colder air around, so you can imagine underneath it, it's going to be cold enough to snow in all places in Ohio. I mean, northern Ohio, northwest Ohio is going to snow again. Those snows, like I mentioned, will extend into Michigan. Going into the Great Lakes here, and back behind it, look at the blues here. That colder air will continue to shift. It enters central U.S., but it shifts eastward as we go through the day on Wednesday, and then the low just kind of sits and spins off the northeast, and on the backside in upstate New York, on Vermont, New Hampshire, especially getting into Maine here. Yeah, they could be picking up some more snow in a lot of these places up here as that low pressure just kind of sits and spins out here up to the northeast. On the backside, you'll get that wraparound moisture, and that'll increase in the snowfall totals in those neck of the woods. But yeah, by the time we get into Thursday, that colder air will continue to shift. It kind of modifies in Texas. Those anomalies will be about 5 to 10 degrees above where you saw on Wednesday, but that colder air underneath it, there's your 20 degree below average temperatures. It also pretty much almost implies where the snow is going to be falling along this boundary here, because the snow is actually going to help it get colder and pull down some of that colder air aloft. But now we're talking places into Florida, we'll finally get into the action of some of that colder air of where you saw those 92 degree temperatures. You won't be seeing them by Thursday. And in fact, the rain will start to subside on Thursday once the cooler air hits Florida. But yeah, this is your Thursday morning temperatures. Still widespread 20s well to the north. So we're talking a very cold week for much of the central northern U.S. But that cold air will continue to shift further southeast. Now look at here in the southeast in Mississippi and Alabama. And again, these are the major cities. So if you live in the suburbs, it's going to get colder than this under those clear skies, light winds, radiational cooling. So definitely be prepared out here. And you're still going to probably have to cover the plants. And much of these areas of the southeast, get in the northwestern portions of Georgia here, even in the portions of the Carolinas, definitely those frost temperatures, anything lower than 36 degrees or lower is considered a frost and would do some damage to your plants. And that colder air continues to shift into the Ohio Valley with widespread 20s and freezing temperatures extending all the way into the northeast, Pennsylvania, getting into New York, and all these New England states up here with definitely some colder temperatures by Thursday. And like I mentioned, as that low just continues to sit and spin up here off the New England coast here, that's going to bring that wraparound moisture to more into the upstate New York, getting into Vermont, New Hampshire, northern portions of Maine here, with some of those heavier snows entering the picture. As we go into Friday, that west ridge modifies a little bit. Some of the cooler temperatures won't be nearly as warm out west. Those southwest winds start to creep back up into Texas. So it's a quick turnaround after you bottom out on Wednesday. You're going to be above average by the time we get into Friday morning, as that colder air will continue to shift further eastward, getting into much of the southeast by then, with those 10 to 15 degrees below average temperatures from much of the southeast by then. But now let's look at the precipitation. There's the story for the week. That stalled frontal boundary will be inundating Florida for much of today, Monday, Tuesday, going into Wednesday, but by the time Thursday rolls around, you'll start drying out in Florida, but leaving behind, again, 4 to 6 inches of a good swath of heavier precipitation. You can't buy a drop of rain in Alaska, much of the west coast here, where that ridge, underneath that ridge, is going to be very dry for those neck of the woods, but you can almost see the snow line where the snow is going to be depicted. And down here into Texas is going to be very dry for much of Texas and much of the southeast, where it's going to be under that cold dome with some below, well below average temperatures. Now let's look at the snow. So there's that snow line as that cold front will continue to press further southward throughout the week. We've got some heavier snows entering the picture of Montana, getting into Wyoming, going to the mountains of Colorado, extending more snow into Denver, where they've already picked up 73 inches. I mean, they're 2 feet above average already. They're going to be picking up more snow by the time Monday rolls around. Another good several inches for them. But a good swath of 4 to 6 inches for much of central and northern Kansas, getting into portions of Nebraska here, going into Missouri with 4 to 6 inches from central to northern Missouri, going into Illinois, and then it even amplifies a little higher once we get into Indiana. Some 4 to 6 inch swap, but down here at the boundary, the northern Indiana could be picking up 6 to 8, if not double-digit totals as we get into northern portions of the Great Lakes here, and especially as we go into Canada with those very heavier totals. There's the GFS model, basically implies the same thing. It actually brings the snow line a little bit further south. There's a good push, and like I mentioned, that showed you that EPO with going well negative. So this snow line will probably end up being a little bit further south than what these models are depicted. And I'm still actually expecting snow into the Texas Panhandle as we go, throughout the week. So, hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Definitely bundle up this week and definitely get those plants protected. I'm giving you plenty of advance warning. Do like this video. Definitely leave your comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel to catch the latest update where I protect you before and after storm.